Guys, in this video we're going to go through kind of everything, and it's not going to be as beautifully organized as the rest of the course. I'm doing this for you guys in Thailand at the request of somebody in the course who just wanted a little bit of additional clarity. So this is going to be kind of like a step-by-step all the way through creating Facebook ads from the very beginning, from start to finish. And so what we're going to talk about first is actually how to make the audiences, because I like to make my audiences first. So let's say that I wanted to only target people, create a custom audience of everyone who's touched my order page, right? And the same thing works if for a Shopify store, instead of targeting this particular URL, right, you would just target people who actually added your product to cart, right? And so I'll show you how to do both of those things. So we're inside one of my ad accounts right now. This is a $997 product with upsells and things like that. So obviously my cost per purchase is probably higher than a lower ticket e-commerce product, and a lot of this is cold traffic. So normally retargeting would be much lower, but for cold traffic for a $997 product, obviously these are very good numbers at almost a 4x return, not counting upsells and cross sells and all that fun stuff. So we're going to go into audiences here, and the internet's going to be a little slower than it normally is because I am in Chiang Mai, Thailand right now, but it should be a fun video aside from that. Okay, cool. So now we're inside of audiences, and it's still loading a little bit. So these are a lot of my audiences. You can see there's some in Great Britain. Most of the ones that are these big ones, right, like 2 million, these actually, in fact, are lookalike audiences, obviously, because a lot of my cold traffic stuff that I do, custom audiences are just too small, right? Unfortunately, 2 million people aren't visiting my order page, for example, only like 8,000 or something like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click custom audience here. We're going to, you can do customer file with emails if you have that. Website traffic if you have that. If you have no website traffic, like no one's ever come to your store, then all you have to do is just start by running either an engagement ad, which we can talk about in a second, to build social proof, and then you just duplicate that into a traffic ad, and then you run the traffic ad until you have enough people that actually visit your website so that you can start to retarget them, create custom audiences of those specific people, and then lookalike audiences, which of course are much larger audiences of those specific custom audiences. And so we're going to go website traffic here. And then all we do is just take this link and put it in and say website visitors who visit specific pages. And I like to use the full range, which is 180. And then we're just going to type that in, right? So we could do it like that. If instead it was like a Shopify page, for example, we could say from your events, and we could do add payment info, right? Or add to cart. Actually is what it would be for Shopify. And now it's going to target every single person who's added a product to cart for your specific Shopify store. Of course, if you wanted to target specific products, you could do people who's visited specific web pages, or you could use dynamic product ads, how we talk about in the other course. Obviously, a single video can't encompass every single thing we could possibly talk about, which is why the whole course exists. But I'm going to try to cover as much as I can in this particular video, right? So if we wanted to make a custom audience of people who visited a specific site, we would do this. We could call this, Amazon order page visitors, right? And we'd create this audience. I'm not going to, because we already have all of these created and organized. But then what you would do is you just create a lookalike audience, and you choose a source audience, right? You could do it a number of different ways. A source audience of like add payment info, right? Like people who actually visited the order page. This is just how I particularly write it, right? And if we wanted to make it in the United States, we would choose the United States. If we wanted to do UK, we do UK. And then you can generate a lookalike audience, right, which is a much larger pool of people that you can then target to, right? And so let's actually talk about building out the ads themselves now. So assuming that we have that custom audience made, that's the small number of people, right? That's just retargeting directly to people who visited my order page. So I would make an ad that said, hey, you visited my order page, but you didn't buy, right? And I would exclude all the people who don't purchase, exactly how I show you how to do earlier in the course. And then you'd only be targeting real people who actually visited your specific order page. right? And then when you can do that, it's not that many people, you're not going to be able to spend that much money, right? But all of the ad costs for retargeting actual custom audiences is going to be super, super valuable because you're targeting the real actual people that visited your page rather than targeting people who, look alike, or a lookalike audience of similar people to the people who did visit your page, but not the exact people. So lookalike audiences are for cold targeting, for expanding, for scaling. Custom audiences, when you target those, are for actually retargeting specific people. So we're going to create something. I'm going to show you guys exactly what I would do. And now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to actually set this up if you have no website visitors whatsoever. Right? So there's two ways to do this. The way that I do it personally, because it's faster, is what I'm going to show. But if you have a smaller budget and you're not worried about scaling fast, then the best way to do it is exactly how I show in the course, which is just creating a post engagement campaign, right? And then making that post engagement campaign exactly how you want your traffic campaign to look like. So it would say it would have all of your normal copy, exactly how I teach you how to do it. It would have all of the normal kind of calls to actions, links in there, everything exactly how I show in the social duplication strategy video. But how I'm going to show it right now is if you have a little bit higher of a budget and you want to do social proof after the fact, because that's how I currently do it. And it's just really easy to actually do it that way, in my opinion. So if you have no traffic whatsoever, what I would do is I would create a traffic campaign, and we'll call this initial traffic campaign. And so if you have any emails or anything you can create a custom audience from, anybody who's visited any of your site, you can create custom audience from that, and then you can use that as the source audience to create a lookalike audience. So assuming that you have anything like that, right, what you would do is you would actually populate that lookalike audience as the first audience, just so you're targeting more people that are similar, right? So let's talk about that first. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to type in Amazon. We're going to go to lookalike audience. Let's see what we have for lookalike audience in here. All right, these are all Great Britain. So this is, okay, here we go. So let's say that you have some purchases, or you have add to carts, or you have view content, or any type of pixel data that you can create custom audiences as the source audiences from, and then you can create lookalike audiences from those custom audiences. Then what you want to do is actually use that, right? Because what that allows you to do is become much more specific and much more targeted than you had been earlier. Right? So if you're targeting people in the USA, you can do that. You can use Google Trends, how I showed you. Let's say that you're targeting, people who like makeup, for example, right? And you wanted to be super, super specific, and you wanted to make sure that every single ad dollar was as perfect as you possibly could. So I would type in makeup, and then once this loads, it's in the United States, right? And I can see Mississippi, Arkansas, West Virginia, right? So instead of targeting the full United States, I could target Mississippi, Virginia, and Arkansas, right? But I'm not going to do that. That's just something that you can do if you really want to be super, super specific. I choose people who live in this location versus everyone in this location because people travel and they're just not likely to buy things while they're traveling. Obviously, you'd populate your age and gender and things like that from Audience Insights, exactly how I show you how to do that. Right? You look for things that are most similar to what you're trying to target. So if you're targeting digital marketing, for example, you would target, I can just show this actually so it's a little bit more clear. So let's go into Audience Insights. All right, so let's say that we were targeting digital marketing. So right now this is all of Facebook, but if we target digital marketing, it's 53% men, 47% women. We go into page likes here. And we see that people are very likely to like digital marketer, Gary Vaynerchuk, the points guy, Tony Robbins, entrepreneur, right? All of these, the penny hoarder, Shopify, things like that, right? So what I would do is I would, keep this open so I can start to split test from it, right? So digital marketer, has about 50% men, so it's not really important to choose men or women there. We're going to do English. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to start pulling these, right? So this is if we have like no traffic. If you have no traffic at all, your lookalike audience would literally just be blank, right? But if you have some traffic, obviously you want to use your lookalike audience because it just gives you a more accurate pool to then start further targeting to create, you know, the most accurate, most likely audience possible of people who want to buy from you, you know, at a scale, right? Obviously at a lookalike scale. So digital marketer, we'll type in Gary Vaynerchuk, the points guy. Gary Vaynerchuk, and remember guys, we chose create multiple new ad sets here for a reason because we want to be able to take advantage of this tool right here, add detailed targeting variation. So we're going to do Gary Vaynerchuk, we'll try Tony Robbins, right? We can do another one, we can do the points guy, right? And we can, I always like to use suggestions here, so Shopify is similar, so we can do Shopify. Suggestions again, dropshipping, e-commerce, WooCommerce, right? And so basically we build out, you know, all of these, as many as we wanted, and we can basically go from there. So if we wanted to be super accurate, right? Like I just kind of glazed over this before, but we could do, depending on what Audience Insights said for our specific thing, we could do 18 through 29. We could add another one here. We could do 29 through 39. We could do 39 through 49, but we'll just leave it at that. Right, now we're at 12 ad sets. So we have 3 here, 4 here, right? I like to edit the placements always. I like to generally split test between desktop and mobile, which you can't do here. You have to do after the fact once you duplicate the ads, but it's super easy to do it. You just, like for these, we would just set it all to mobile, and then once we created all of these ads, we'd select them all, duplicate, and then change the device type to all desktop. Super easy. We're just going to choose Facebook feeds here, and I like Instagram feed as well. I generally leave off the rest of these. If you're doing retargeting, specifically, right column works well and Messenger works well, but if it's not retargeting, right, if it's lookalike, if it's kind of cold traffic and scaling, I generally don't like to use the other ones. They just don't work as well. So there's a couple of things that you can optimize for. Landing page views, you can also do link clicks. Again, I like to split test these, so you can't do it from this particular view, but you can afterwards. So I would create all of these as landing page, then I would duplicate them all, and I would create them, and then I would choose as for the optimization. The only thing I would change is I would go to link clicks here, right, and then I would choose the actual when you're charged to LPC or CPC, link clicks. Right, and so those are just ways that I like to duplicate, and my computer's about to die, but so I like to duplicate on male only, female only, all. Sometimes I like to duplicate on mobile, desktop, right? The minimum things I like to split test are mobile versus desktop, and when you're charged as link clicks versus impressions, and letting Facebook try to optimize for you. Right, so no matter what this is, I like to generally do, like if it was 100, I would do $250 a day. But since it's only 12, we're going to multiply that by like 3. So we're going to come down here and type in 36. All right, so now it's $3 a day. Okay, so it's telling me the minimum has to be 60. And the reason that it's doing that is because when you do link click, charge by link clicks, each ad set has to have a minimum of $5. If our optimization here was something else like landing page views, for example, then we could do $36 here. And so we'd continue, right, and then we'd actually launch these. And so I'm not going to launch them because it would just make my actual ads manager less organized. But we can look at some of the ones that I have live right now, and then we can actually talk about kind of like why the things are like they are. Right, so a lot of these have purchases. So you see how this says copy? It's because when I first create something, like let's say that these were the, okay, so that's 5. Let's say that these were the 12 that we made. What I would do is I would literally go to duplicate right here. And Facebook tries to sneakily like have you turn on all this other crap, so just I always uncheck that and go to duplicate. And I'll actually duplicate these because I duplicate winning ad sets all the time, and then I just change one variable about them to see if I can actually get them to perform better than the original, right? And so now these are the 12 that I just duplicated. And this is a lot of processing power for the Thailand internet, but we'll see what happens. All right, cool. So there's a bunch of different audiences here. There's a bunch of different ages. It looks like they're all gender as all though. So let's try having them be all men, right? So that's one little thing. Generally, if I was doing this for myself, I would just publish, duplicate again, publish, change one thing again, and things like that. So when you're charged, we see that this is different, right? So what we can do here is we can go to View and Edit. All right, so these are all actually for conversions. So if I wanted to, I could do like, link clicks for this one, or I could do like daily unique reach or impressions or link clicks. For this one, I could do landing page views, right? And I could save them as a draft. So those are just small changes where you continue to iterate and split test and things like that. And so yeah, so we're gonna publish these, and then after I publish them, I'm gonna make sure that they don't have like crazy budgets, because some of my ad sets do have crazy budgets, and I want to make sure that I'm not like spending a ridiculous amount. Generally for new duplicated ad sets, I like to keep them low, kind of how I originally set things, just to make sure that they're not like getting too out of hand or anything like that. All right, cool. So now these 12 are still good, but I'm going to go to budget here. And so most of these are pretty crazy, so I'm going to highlight these, and I'm going to set all of the daily budgets to $5 and publish it. Right, so these are all super cheap now, relatively, and so I'm not really worried about how they perform. I'll watch them over the next few days, and that'll be that. Right, so I'm going to show you guys how I use rules as well. So I have 3 rules that I generally use in most of my ad sets. The Frankenstein rule, the scaling rule, and the turning off rule. So let's just make them right now, because it'll just be easier. So we're going to turn off ad sets. Right, so we want to turn off ad sets when a few things happen. For me, I like to turn off ad sets when the spend is greater than $750 and the leads, right? So leads for this particular example would be how many emails people give us is smaller than 1. So there's less than 1 lead, meaning there's 0 leads, and the spend is larger than $750. So this means if you spend $750 and you don't get a single email, turn off, right? And we're going to turn off ad sets. We're going to call this turn off losers. Right, and we're going to create another rule that says adjust budget. We're going to increase the daily budget by 19%. You can do 21% for this one. Set the maximum daily budget to $1,000. Action frequency is default, so it happens every 30 minutes, I believe. And we're going to scale this when the return on ad spend, right? Return on ad spend just basically means if you spend $1 and you make $2 back, your return on ad spend would be 200%, is greater than 1, right? So this means any positive return on ad spend, anytime you spend $1 and you have more than $1 back, we want to scale the ads that meet those particular restrictions or filters, right? So I like to do it the last 3 days, just so it kind of removes outliers a little bit. We're going to call this scale winners. Right, and then the last rule is what I like to call the Frankenstein rule. So when you have a ton of different split tests, one of the things that happens is sometimes you'll turn off ad sets automatically by rules, for example, and then a week later they'll have a sale, right? So what the Frankenstein rule basically means is turn on ad sets if they were already off, if website purchase ROAS, return on ad spend, is greater than 1. So this means if at any point an ad set, whether it's off or on, gives you a positive return, right? For every $1 you spend, you make more than $1 back. Even if the ad set's off, it's going to turn the ad set on. So Frankenstein rule is super important. Turn on all ad sets if website purchase return on ad spend is greater than 1. lifetime. We call this Frankenstein, right? So that's the rules that I like to use. That's how I kill off, poorly spending ads. Those are the rules that I use. We talked about, when I use custom audiences, specifically for retargeting people that actually visit my site versus lookalike audiences. We use lookalike audiences when we're trying to scale, when we want a larger audience to actually start split testing. We find which interest to split test on from audience insights based on, the interest that's most similar to whatever we're trying to sell or do. And things like that. And so the last thing that I want to show is actually how to do winning engagement. Right, so how I do engagement now is India, Bangladesh, winning engagement. So India, Bangladesh, and the Philippines, and Pakistan. And so what I do is with winning ads, right, with ads that have positive return on ad spend, with ads that have purchases that have really low cost per leads, what I'll do is I'll set up an actual ad from the start, right? A post engagement ad, a page like ad, and I'll set the targeting to India. We can actually just go in so it makes more sense. Right, so I'll set up an ad just like normally. We'll call it a post engagement ad. The location's India, Pakistan, Philippines, Bangladesh. I target younger kids just because they're more likely to actually like stuff and it's cheaper. 13 to 20-year-olds, I target something super general like money, right? There's still 12 million people, but people who like money are more likely to like things related to money, even though it's a really general interest, obviously algorithm-based, not fact-based. I only target people in feeds, in the Facebook feed, because otherwise you're wasting money. Because if people like it on Instagram, you can't duplicate those likes. You can only duplicate it for Facebook. So I'd use the Facebook feed here, and then I set this up, and it's super simple. So once I create that ad set, right, there's one ad inside of that ad set, and then I just duplicate it, right? So let's say that we wanted to do another one. So I'm actually going to show you guys exactly how to do this because I want it to make like perfect sense. So let's do cost per purchase. So this one has 3 purchases, right? So this one has 2 purchases at $189, right? So we're gonna edit this one, right? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna open this up actually with Facebook posts with comments, right? So now we're gonna go back to where we just were, which was the winning engagement campaign. So it obviously have to be on. I just am not currently using it, so that's why it's not on, because it already did its job. And then we just duplicate this, right? This is the ad that we just set up. We duplicate it, right? This is the ad that we just found that's winning. This is the second number, the actual post ID here. And once we duplicate this ad, literally all we do is we just come down into enter post ID, submit, right? And now it brings that new video in, and then we just publish it, right? And so this is a pretty cool way to basically take ads that are already proven to be winners. They have low cost per leads, they have low add to carts, they have low purchases, cost per purchase, right? And then once we actually have proven that, right, through our metrics, through our testing, through our split testing, then we just set up a simple post engagement campaign. We target India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and the Philippines, 13 through 20-year-olds that like some loose interest. And then once we do that, that'll be set up, right? This ad will be here from what we set up. We can just choose anything. And then we duplicate it, and then we add the post ID after the fact. And what you can see here is these particular ads. Let's just look at one that has a lot. So like this one has, we spent $49 on this one. It's a video, so it's a little bit more expensive. But you can see 1.6 thousand people liked it, 173 comments, and things like that. So it's a super, a lot of social proof, and it just helps a ton as far as actually decreasing your cost per engagement, because nothing attracts a crowd quite like a crowd. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. That's kind of A to Z, everything that I do, whether you have people visiting your site and pixel data or emails, whether you don't, how to actually split test, what rules I use to kill and scale ads, the difference between custom audiences and lookalike audiences and how I use them, and everything that you possibly need with the course to really get started. And remember guys, the people who win are the people who test the most, right? And you can start with $2 a day budgets, you can start with $2.50, right? But the more split tests you make and the more shots that you get to actually kind of win the Facebook algorithm, the more likely you are to actually be successful and to be profitable with Facebook ads. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you on the next one.